Welcome back to the show, everyone. Oh man, we have got some fun stories today. Did you know that, of all people, Monster Energy actually managed to get at Ubisoft and cause them some problems? An explanation to something that puzzled us at the time. Quite an interesting story that now, sadly, is a little bit more relevant again. Other fun things today, like pay-to-raid loot boxes in an MMORPG. I don't like the sound of that. None of the players like the sound of that. Quite fun. We've got a big consumer win coming in the UK and the EU. Let's hope that can be elsewhere too. Some perhaps woes that Sony are experiencing, shifting PSVR 2, and Epic trying to redo the server browser from first principles. So, all very fun, and brought to you by our sponsor. Cutting through the bullshit is what we are all about. It's also what Ground News are all about. And recently, I was trying to figure out what the hell's going on with the TikTok ban situation, because it seems there's more to that legislation than the name lets on, and it's also a bit partisan, so finding out what's actually going on is really vital. I mean, knowing what's actually happening in the world is hard, and that is why I went to ground.news/Bellular. Well, I didn't go there. I already have it, but you should, because that's my link. Ground are awesome. They give you a quick visual breakdown of all news outlets covering a story. All. Their political bias, how factual their sources are, and who owns the source. You can easily compare headlines of the same story from loads of different outlets to catch spin. You can follow specific topics to build up like your own news. Then you've got their browser extension that brings all of their super powerful tools everywhere you go. I mean, that's a funny example. While researching for Microsoft stuff last month, because we've been covering the Activision Blizzard merger, I was using Ground, and when I was going through all the Microsoft news, I found out that they recently culled their entire artificial intelligence ethics team. Yeah, that's neat, especially considering how fast things have been even in the last month. And that's just another great example of how Ground helps us stay informed. It helps us fight the bias of headlines that are designed to spread virally over social media, and it just helps us be, it's kind of in the name, more grounded in reality. And if being grounded in reality, up to date, free of spin, I guess actually like really being yourself and being informed, if that sounds good to you, go to ground.news/Bellular. You can sign up for free or subscribe for unlimited access. They have a range of plans that actually start from under $1 a month, which is insane. So check out Ground. They're awesome. They've got an awesome mission and amazing tools. Thanks to them for sponsoring today's video. Monster Energy maliciously monstering Monsters and Mortals Maker is our first story. Yes, right. Do you remember the game Immortals Phoenix Rising? Well, it wasn't initially called that. It was supposed to be called Gods and Monsters. Why? Legal action from Monster Energy. They argued it was an infringement of their trademark, and now the Coca-Cola-owned drinks manufacturer has decided to turn their site to an indie. Yes, per indie developer, Glowstick Interactive. They're making a game called Dark Deception Monsters and Mortals. Oh dear, you wouldn't want to be putting monsters in your video game, because now monsters are an energy drink. Yes, fantastic. It's a multiplayer horror game. It costs $3.99 on Steam. It kind of plays with the Dead by Daylight sort of style of gameplay. This is what it looks like. This is what its logo looks like. And obviously, when you see the two of these things as a consumer, I mean, you're just going to be confused, aren't you? You're going to think, Monsters and Mortals? What? Oh no, I went to Steam to I went to Steam to buy some energy drink, and now I have a game. What's happened? I'm confused in the marketplace. Because you know the way, like, one of the things in cases like this is, would a consumer, like, you know, reasonably be confused or deceived by any sort of overlap between these things? I don't think any motherfucker is going to be looking at this and expecting an energy drink. Very bizarre, of course. There's a can of Monster, just in case you were getting confused. Can you, the viewer, tell these brands apart? I know it's kind of challenging. Monster, don't think you can. and yes, this is a threat to their trademark, apparently. Yes, the founder and CEO of Glowstick Entertainment says that Monster has begun litigation against them because the game name has the word monsters in it. Not even monster, monsters. They claim that our game is confusingly similar to their energy drink. This is ridiculous. Now, Monster are willing to settle. How good of them. But provided the glow stick can reach terms. Basically, it demands that in exchange for allowing us to use the name Monsters and Mortals, we agree to never name any other game, any variation of the word monster. So it's basically Monster Energy saying, "Oh, we'll let you away with it once, but never again." How insane. So basically, they just have to settle that they can have this trademark, but no other trademark, and that includes derivations like monstrosity, monstrous, monstra, or associated words like beast or unleash. This is mad. They also can't use the word monster in any way that separates or highlights it against the original trademark in terms of, like a change of font or font size. They cannot register any trademarks for a claw or claw-like thing, because that could be confusingly similar. Oh, this is so bizarre and wacky. And they're also not allowed to use the colors green or white against a white or black background in any trademark being registered. And in return for doing all of these things, they can make sure that Monster Energy will not object to their current trademark for dark deception, monsters, and mortals, something that a consumer may confuse for an energy drink on digital distribution site Steam. Yes. This is very, very bizarre indeed. Of course, the developers are not particularly willing. They've actually decided to fight this thing in court and then publicize the entire thing. They'll be doing some live streaming to help raise funds for the legal side of things, along with answering some community questions. So this, like it's many things, it is one of them, though, a bit of a marketing boon for them. How many more people know about their game because of what Monster Energy's done? Now, obviously, it's not the first time this has happened. Do you remember when Mojang, the developers of Minecraft, they were, was it Scrolls was the game? I forget the name exactly, but Bethesda went and basically went after them because it had scrolls in it, like the Elder Scrolls. And a lot of that just came down to saying, yeah, but we have to fight for our IP, or we have to contest our copyright, for our own legal protection. It was a whole big discussion, but ultimately, to a normal person like you or me, it's a load of bullshit that feels bad and is just stomping on people, which sucks. Now, something that also sucks is what they tried to do to EverQuest 2, which is a bit bizarre. Yes, EverQuest 2 still is going. It's nearly 20 years old, and they recently fell into the trap, happens to the best of us, of trying to implement paid loot boxes. But it's a bit bizarre. Within a month of implementation, the very large player base backlash basically meant the developer had to pull these from the cash store. They've been given the opportunity to purchase personal treasure unlockers, which would give people more opportunities to have another role at raid gear beyond the usual acquisition limit. So the way in an MMO, you'll have your dungeon lockout for the week, right? You can kill a boss for loot once a week, and that'll be that. Imagine being able to pay money to just loot more. Right? That's obviously pay to win. It is accelerating you through the gear curve faster. Now, the developer has said that they've heard and understand that there were particular elements of the Limbent Heritage Crate that run counter to our shared values. Interesting. Funny that it took them, not getting away with it to understand. It's sad to see that happen to a legacy game, though I suppose this whole... the whole situation with some MMOs is crazy. I mean, recently, I think it was a Josh Strife Hayes video, maybe like a year or two ago, but it was going over Neverwinter. I think it was Neverwinter. Not 100% sure. It's the sort of more action-oriented one, but the true depths of pay-to-win monetization that had been put in there and just how disgusting they were. It was the Dungeons & Dragons MMO. Next then, Sony may have a bit of reason to be sad. Now, the reason should not be the quality of their product here, because PSVR 2 is an amazing piece of kit. It truly is. It is a really awesome bit of hardware. Now, of course, it is a VR kit that's more expensive than the console required to run it, so yes, this is still relegating VR outside of the MetaQuest to being definitely a high disposable income thing, especially because unlike if you have a Meta Quest, you're locked down to the PlayStation Store, which is not a cheap place for VR. Bloomberg basically has reported that they're predicting that it's not going to be a big hit. Now, the last time that reporter Takashi Mochizuki, I think, made claims about PSVR for Bloomberg, Sony actually came out and specifically denied those claims. Now, that's usually not something that a listed company will do unless they have a decent amount of, evidence and they can really prove that, because if you are basically found to be lying in a way that could be misleading investors, then, that can obviously be quite frowned upon. But there's a bit of a distinction here. This reporting is based on numbers being predicted by IDC, who are a market intelligence firm. Their estimate is that Sony have sold fewer than 300,000 units of the headset since launch. Now, that's a solid number, but after 3 years of sales, PSVR, like the initial version, it had 5 million sales, right? 5 million sales by December 2019. So basically, they're not off to a big start. That's particularly, I think particularly going to be disappointing for them. But a thing that industry analysts are generally saying is that there is a bit of a downtrend in VR. So here's from Matt Piscatella. Since VR is a hot topic today because of the Bloomberg article, just wanted to point out that VR and AR headset sales have been struggling going into February, with sales down more than 40% for the 6-month period ending January 2023. Interesting. I mean, the Meta Quest 2 is very affordable for a long time. Maybe a lot of people have got that. They're just doing that with their link cable. They're maybe not seeing the value proposition from Sony immediately with the PSVR 2, especially considering that there's not great backwards compatibility to PSVR 1 games. I mean, even a friend of mine had an experience of, I think it was Hitman, really wanted to do Hitman in the PSVR 2, but it ain't supported, so you can't. That obviously feels bad. And I think in this very early stage with PSVR 2, ultimately for a lot of people, if they do want to get into VR, maybe they're going to be looking somewhere else, especially considering it is definitely quite expensive. Now, for my take here, I'm not surprised. I think we've still yet to see those killer apps. Like there's a like of Beat Saber and stuff like that. There's the people who, is it Pavlov? That's the sort of Counter-Strike style shooter. There are plenty of just little successes there. But I just don't think that the follow-up content has really came on big. Like, we need more Half-Life Alyxes. I think Valve, they can obviously justify Half-Life Alyx because of the amount of money that they're making off the hardware that, I mean, really, Alyx was a system seller for the Index because of how the Knuckles controllers were, brought in. But for a lot of people like me, I mean, for me, VR is just casually to work up a bit of a sweat and Beat Saber, and I'd never want to play it on a locked-down, walled garden system like PlayStation because, ultimately, I want to sideload songs that I want. So even if PSVR was the best experience, it would never be worth it for me to use it. All right, so I think if there was anything for Sony to do, honestly, given the Steam Deck, it would be the Vita 2. I don't know if they'd call it the Vita, but I do think that a handheld console could be a very, very powerful part of a future PlayStation strategy. I mean, it just does make sense, right? Get one of them, get it to be relatively powerful, which obviously can be done. Tie it in with their Game Pass-like service, and maybe you could go somewhere. I've been surprised at, I think it was at one point 10% of our players were on the Steam Deck for The Pale Beyond, because what Steam gives us a lot of numbers about what our players are playing the game on. And to be honest, we were all surprised. It was damn, that is a lot of people. I think there's clearly appetite then for this sort of niche of console. The Switch really helped that come out. We've got Asus actually now launching a direct competitor to the Steam Deck, though it does run Windows 10 or 11, which could be a little bit awkward given that SteamOS does help Valve squeeze a lot more out of the Steam Deck. But anyway, maybe PlayStation could take a little bit of a look back at one thing that they used to be remarkably good at doing. I know that the likes of the Vita didn't get the most sales, but the Vita was a killer little device for its time, and with some unique offerings that had been on the store and as an emulation box, it is a machine that really did find just a super strong cult following who really loved it. Anyway, let's move on then. Epic reinvent server browsers from first principles. This is kind of interesting. Now, if you're maybe a younger member of the audience, you want to be around for these days, but by default, right, what you would do is you look at a list of servers when you were playing a game. Sometimes those would be official servers, sometimes they'd be hosted by other players. Clans would be hosting their own servers. You could check the tick rate of a server. You could look at your the amount of the ping that you've got to that server. You could specifically join a server that is close to you where you'll actually get good performance. You could see how many players were on a server. You could maybe see the custom rule set that a server was using. You could see the map rotation of a server you were playing. So if you just wanted to play 2-Fort 24/7 in TF2, you could do that. If you wanted to play 24/7 2-Jan rifles in Call of Duty 2, you could do that. Obviously with matchmaking though, which I guess the likes of, your Halos and your Call of Duties really pushed forward, we kind of lost some of that. Server browser sadly fell out of favor. But now, instead of trying to show which modes are popular in Fortnite after Creative 2.0, because of course Creative 2.0 and the idea of Fortnite as a larger content creation platform, a la Roblox, they've actually brought back some things. They brought back player counts to give users more information. So now, you see like by Epic, and a player number, 0 build, 100,000 people, Forest Guardian, 200, Space Inside, 192. So you can actually see quite a lot more here, what players are actually doing. Which I do think is kind of interesting, because sometimes it's like, well, if you expose numbers, then people just be like, dead game. So who knows, but anyway, it's not quite a server browser, but it is Epic giving people a bit more information. That certainly is interesting. Finally then, a good consumer win, because Joy-Con drift, the saga never ends, but Nintendo have taken a bit of an L, and that now is that the official policy on their support site for the European Economic Area, the UK and Switzerland, basically says that regardless of device warranty, whether it's user error or wear and tear, they will repair Joy-Con drift stuff free of charge. Now this obviously is something that's decently prompted by, various things that have happened. Now, they got a bit of a win, actually, where they brushed off a class action in the USA, but there has been more. There's been some pressure from the European Commission, stuff like that, but the thing is, they're actually not out of the woods, because the consumer advocacy group, Which, have reported some fun stuff to Eurogamer. This is crazy. So, in 2022, Which found out that 40% of Switches suffered from Joy-Con drift. 40%! And 52% of those Switches bought replacement controllers rather than getting them repaired for free by Nintendo. That's a lot of money. And Which believes that the flaws inherent to the technology, yes, and imagine soon we'll be in a glorious future. Everyone will be using the Hall effect for their controllers, like the Ghoulie Kit King Kong Pro 2. Which, I think that's what it's called. It works for PC, and I think it works for the Nintendo stuff. So I think, you can be poning noobs in Splatoon with it, but I think for a lot of us, though, we really want to see that controller get support for Xbox and PlayStation, so that we know we can just buy a premium controller, and it has Hall effect sensors, so there will be no stick drift. There will be none of those problems. But we're not in that future yet. And ultimately here, it's like, yeah, you can get the thing for free, but how long is that going to take? Whereas somebody can just walk into game or Amazon Prime, a replacement controller. So ultimately with this, I think the solution for Nintendo has got to be making this better so that more people actually go for the program. I mean, what would be ideal is that whenever you issue the RMA, you could just do a thing of cross-shipping. You send your busted Joy-Cons in, Nintendo ships you a free set of identical Joy-Cons, and then they just refurb the ones that you sent in and sell them somewhere else at a discount. That would be better, right? They should be offering as close to a, few day shipping, very good quality service so that people can say, look, we're trying to provide the best service possible for when this flaw appears, rather than just sort of saying, but we offer them for free. It's not our fault that people don't take us up on the thing, where, then they could have the incentive to, have people jump through hoops, right? And it's like, piracy is a service problem. So when service is really good, then people buy the thing, and this is like a bit of a flip on that, where if they cause a service problem, people will just go and buy the new Joy-Cons. It'll make Nintendo more money. I mean, can you imagine the margin on Joy-Cons? It must be absolutely ludicrous. Anyhow, who knows? Maybe when the next consoles are out, we will actually get Hall effect controllers that do not get completely busted after 1 or 2 years. One can hope. And with that, if you've been hoping for the end of this show, congratulations, you've made it through. A big thanks to today's sponsor for supporting us. Go check out Ground News. They do awesome stuff. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.